The story follows a cheerful, fat lady named Kikuko, also affectionately called Nikuko. She loves food, booze, and making puns. Nikuko seemingly has terrible luck in life and especially, in love. Nikuko grows up in a small town before moving to Osaka at 16, where she finds a job at a local snack bar, meeting her first boyfriend, the casino dealer. One day, the dealer messes up at work and decides to skip town, leaving Nikuko to pay off the enormous debt. She toils for 11 years till she manages to pay it off, then moves to Nagoya at the age of 27, where she meets her next boyfriend, the barman. Claiming he was working through college, the barman takes money from Nikuko till she finally catches him cheating on his 8th affair. She moves to Yokohama at age 30, where, while working at a casino, she meets the married office worker, her third boyfriend. He takes money from her, claiming he's using the money to fund his divorce. It's only when the amount gets to the millions, does Nikuko find out that his wife is pregnant again. Furious, she races off to his house to confront him, but upon seeing his child's bike in the yard, she turns away from the situation, letting it all go, thinking the child hasn't done anything wrong. At 33, she moves yet again to Tokyo, this time avoiding bars and casinos, opting to work at a deli instead, as she tells herself she wants to steer clear of shady men. While working there, she meets the novelist, who, unlike her other deceitful partners, really is an aspiring novelist, despite having never written a word before. He, too, takes Nikuko's money but uses it only to buy books and never exhibits reckless behavior with women, making Nikuko's young daughter like him best out of all her boyfriends. Her daughter especially enjoys the books he brings home. The stories give her hope, allowing her to envision a future where the three stay together as a family. One day, these hopes are dashed as Nikuko wakes to find the novelist has disappeared, leaving only a cryptic note, saying he's going home to lay himself to rest. Frantic, Nikuko boards a northbound train, hoping his hometown is in that direction. They arrive at a port town during a blizzard, and Nikuko spends the entire night going door to door searching for him, all while her 8-year-old daughter is with her. Her appearance in town sparks rumors and, exhausted with no other hope, Nikuko, at 35, decides to settle there. Years later, in their new home, Nikuko's daughter wakes before her, thanks to her mother's snoring. Climbing outside, she greets the morning sun on their boat, listening to the gulls squawk, go beyond, as they fly past, and greeting the stray cat that wanders the port. Her mother wakes with a start, squeezing into her clothes and rushing to prepare breakfast. They make their French toast together, as is routine, while Nikuko happily hums a song that her daughter reminds her is a sad one. As they sit for breakfast, her daughter asks her to sign the school's permission slip for swimming lessons, but Nikuko mistakenly signs in the student signature line instead of the one for parents. Luckily enough, both of their names are Kikuko, although spelled with different kanji, so Nikuko just draws a couple of arrows on the permission slip and makes a note about her mistake. On her way out, Kikuko observes the family name on the door, thinking that the Misuji family name looks like a girl's name, which makes it seem like 3 women live there. Kikuko meets her friend Maria waiting for her by the bridge so they can walk to school together, but on the opposite side of the bridge is a group of boys, leering at the girls. Kikuko grabs her friend's hand, leading her past the boys while noticing that one of them is very quiet. This piques her interest. During roll call in class, Kikuko thinks about Misuji beef, which is the tastiest part of the oyster blade, and reminiscing about tasting Sasen's Misuji makes her stomach growl. At the same time, while Nikuko is at home doing chores, she spots old man Sasen driving up the hill, and they exchange greetings, saying they'll see each other later at his grill house. Every lunchtime, Kikuko's class plays basketball in 2 teams, headed by the 2 most popular girls, Kanemoto and Mori. Even girls that don't play, come to spectate and cheer on the players. Kikuko thinks nobody in her class does their own thing at lunch for fear of being left out or upsetting the status quo, but some girls are dissatisfied with how the teams are decided. As they walk home, Maria argues with Kikuko that Kanemoto likes her best, which is why she's always picked first, and asks if she wouldn't rather be on Mori's team instead. They bump into the boys at the bridge again, and Kikuko uses the opportunity to avoid answering, teasing Maria that maybe the boys are sweet on her. Maria replies in absolute disgust, and Kikuko laughs as she runs home. As she passes the Mizukawa shrine, it talks to her, saying it's full of history, asking if she wants details, and she thinks to herself that the sexy shrine talked too much, vaguely wondering why people called it that. She hears crickets crying and she can smell summer in the air. That night, Nikuko jovially serves customers at the Iwashi Grill House. All the regulars love her. Kikuko enters and the patrons greet her respectfully as Nikuko seats her at a table. As Kikuko waits for her meal, she sees a psychic on the TV named Delicia give a reading to a man about his past life. Sasen arrives, serving her tonight's staff meal, Niku yakisoba, which is stir-fried soba noodles with beef. Kikuko eats gratefully while watching the TV show and Nikuko joins her, sparking a conversation about the psychic. Nikuko believes she's never wrong, but Kikuko thinks the things she says are crazy. Changing the subject, her mom asks what she's been reading lately and Kikuko tells her she's reading J.D. Salinger now. Impressed by her daughter's intelligence, Nikuko loudly compliments her, even getting the patrons of the restaurant to applaud her as well. Kikuko, hearing the psychic talk about past lives, wonders about Nikuko's past lives and if she did something bad since her current life seems so hard. When she arrives home and goes to the bathroom, she notes the toilet paper has "This is the last roll" scribbled in marker on the side and is in the wrong direction. Sighing, she flips the roll, thinking about how Nikuko is bad at starting things, especially relationships. She doesn't know what she needs and thus, doesn't know the needs of others. People often become annoyed, make fun of, or deceive her, but Nikuko always stays true to herself, wherever she goes. Kikuko would like to ask Delicia what Nikuko did in a past life and what kind of life awaited them now. Kikuko heads to the convenience store later to restock on toilet paper. While there, she passes by some pads and thinks about how all the girls in her class have been getting their periods and are even wearing bras lately, but her body remains the same as always. She likes her scrawny, flat-chested, twig-legged body and secretly hopes to never hit puberty. She spots some pastries on sale she knows Nikuko would like but refrains from buying them for her, for fear her mother would only get fatter. Exiting the store, she bumps into the group of boys from before, the two rowdy delinquents teasing her before retreating, leaving her confused. As she rounds the corner, she sees them again, taunting a caged monkey, except for the quiet boy she'd observed before, who stood behind them, stoic as always. Suddenly, he pulls a silly face at her, surprising her. Not knowing what to do, she leaves without saying anything, but from that day forward, decides she's to keep observing the boy, though she never catches him making faces again. Her curiosity leads her to ask Maria about the group, and her friend tells her the quiet one's name is Ninomiya, taking the chance to tease Kikuko about her sudden interest in a boy. Another school day passes with another basketball game that leaves Maria more disgruntled than before. The kids run home through pouring rain after school and Kikuko arrives home to find Nikuko passed out on the floor. Today is Nikuko's day off from Iwashi Grill House and she's so tired, she's fallen asleep in the middle of doing chores. Kikuko decides to cook lunch in her stead, whipping up some spaghetti bolognese from a can. She wakes Nikuko as soon as the food is ready and they have lunch together, discussing how they'll spend time together today, as Nikuko has a few days off. She suggests going to see a penguin she calls Penta, although its real name is Kenko, and while Kikuko doesn't enjoy Kenko, she knows how much her mother loves him, so she agrees. While waiting for the bus in the rain, a gecko crawls by, saying Kikuko definitely won't bump into any of her classmates. Her mother asks her if she said something. She says no. Kikuko thinks about how everyone in town knows of her mom as the cheery plump lady from the grill house, and how much she stands out in a small town. The sexy Mizukawa shrine behind her murmurs what a wonderful history that is, and her mother asks her if she said something. She says no. The bus arrives and they board. Kikuko is initially grateful that no one from school has seen her. However, when they arrive at Noda housing complex, Ninomiya boards the bus, sitting in front. She keenly observes him, noticing he stares at his reflection the same way Nikuko does, when suddenly, he starts making those ridiculous faces again. Kikuko gets off at the aquarium, leaving him aboard the bus, and wonders if he saw her there. He seemed to be going to the center at the next stop, but she knew nothing about it. She enters the aquarium with her mother and the custodian welcomes them, saying they had the place all to themselves today. Hearing this, Nikuko runs off, skipping and celebrating childishly when she spots Kenko. She gets too excited, slipping and falling. The wet ground makes her slide across the floor, directly toward the penguin. The bird charges at her too, launching itself to bounce on her belly, much to everyone's surprise. After school the next day, Maria invites Kikuko over, but only after she's agreed to come. She reveals she's invited more girls, all of which happen to be Mori's dream basketball team. Collapsing when she gets home, Kikuko gripes, not wanting to go to Maria's anymore. Her mother gets home, excitedly showing her the 3 pastries she got on sale at the convenience store and asks how her day was. Kikuko says her day was ordinary and Niku says ordinary is best. She mentions to Niku she's been invited to Maria's but that she's apprehensive about going, thinking that if she attends, she'll have to listen to Maria badmouth Kanemoto. She also knows they'd try to convince her to be on Mori's team, putting her in a position where she can't say no and she doesn't want to be peer pressure. Niku tells her she doesn't have to go if she doesn't want to, that she can make an excuse, say she isn't feeling well, even volunteering to call Maria on her behalf if she feels bad. Kikuko calls Maria herself, telling her she's unwell, and while she feels guilty for worrying her friend, she feels relieved not having to go. The next day at school, Maria's clique confronts Kikuko about Kanemoto. She demands to know what she thinks of her. When Kikuko gives a neutral answer, Maria tries baiting her further, calling Kanemoto bossy and asking if she likes her. Glancing at the other girls' faces, Kikuko realizes she'd never really spoken to any of them before. Maria continues ranting on to say it was Kanemoto's idea to pick teams and she only ever picks her favorites, leaving the others out. She claims Kikuko doesn't ever notice because she's Kanemoto's number one, declares the girls won't play with her next lunch, and asks Kikuko to join their team instead. Kikuko hesitates, reluctant to cause conflict, and Maria accuses her of betrayal. Maria's clique tells her to let it go and they walk off on Kikuko. At lunch, Maria confronts Kanemoto and propositions the class to play with her team instead, dividing the class in half. She hatefully scowls at Kikuko before exiting with her clique. Kanemoto doesn't budge under her pressure, playing with those who stay. Kikuko can't choose. She doesn't think it's right people get left out, but she doesn't feel what Maria's doing is right either. She doesn't have a solid opinion on the situation and figures. Even if she did, she'd never be able to share it with them. She just wants to accept their opinions and run away. Walking home, she passes Maria huddled with two of her new friends, whispering something in their ears which makes the girls all laugh at Kikuko as she walks by. Kikuko reminisces on when she first moved, how Maria was her first friend but thinks Maria will never walk home with her again. She stands at the shrine, listening to the animals talking. A lizard runs by saying it's late for a date it doesn't have, a toad croaks that the world is a hazy white, a cicada laments that it spent 7 years underground just to expire above ground. Hearing drums in the distance, Kikuko wanders into the summer festival in town where she meets 3 girls from her class. They all hang out, playing games, tasting food and taking selfies. While there, they see Maria with her mom, commenting that she looks tacky and lame. Maria ended up being kicked out of Mori's group and Kikuko theorizes it's because she was too selfish and pushy with the other girls. She wants to do something but feels as though she can't, still having mixed feelings about Maria herself. She spots Niku at the fair also, who loudly slurs if she's having fun. Kikuko is embarrassed to have her mom seen as inebriated, and self-conscious of what her classmates might think. The girls say her mother keeps herself young but that they don't resemble her at all. Watching her mom drunkenly flirt with an okonomiyaki vendor makes Kikuko worry her mother is about to make another terrible relationship decision, noting this was part of her cyclic behavior with toxic men. As her anxiety builds about her mother's naivete, she's distracted by Ninomiya and the gang. She catches him pulling a face and finds it oddly comforting. As the new term starts, everything goes back to normal with the girls in Kikuko's class, with only one student being left out, Maria. On her way home, Kikuko bumps into Ninomiya by himself and they share their first conversation. He's observing the stone shrine at the base of a tree, and when Kikuko asked why, he told her the Guardian of Horses shrine used to be closer to the sea long ago but a tsunami pushed it back. She mentioned she'd seen him the other day and he confesses he was aware, asking if she was with her mother. When she confirms, he says they look nothing alike. She finds out he went to Kotobuki Center that day to make a model. His parents make him go because they say he needs something to focus on. Kikuko wants to know what the model is but he teases her, keeping it a secret, only hinting that it's what he cares for most. When she asks why he needs to focus, he confesses it's because he can't stop pulling faces. Today is his scheduled day at the center and he jokingly asks if she would join him, but she does accompany him. As they walk together, she finds out he doesn't know when he started making faces, he just always did it, thinking it was a normal thing everyone did. Kikuko claims she understands, admitting making faces feels great while knowing she's been imitating Ninomiya's faces at home. He chuckles, appreciating her perspective, but confides that pulling faces feels more like something he has to do. He guides her off-road for a quick detour, to show her his secret place, leading her to a spot where they could see the entire town. Kikuko comments that everything looks like a toy and Ninomiya points out they can see her house from there. Kikuko asks him if the other boys know about this spot and Ninomiya says no, confiding this place was only for him. At the center, a robotic receptionist greets them and logs Ninomiya in. They're escorted to the classroom where Ninomiya steams in front of a humidifier. While Kikuko looks around, stupefied, she feels like he's showing off. Grilling him about the other 2 boys, she finds out they've known each other since grade 2 and has been here before, making Kikuko surprised the center isn't a secret. Kikuko suddenly starts venting about the complex situation with the girls in her class, asking Ninomiya if he knows Maria. When he says yes and calls her cute, Kikuko gives an incredulous response. Ninomiya says she looks like a princess, calling her feminine, but Kikuko argues it doesn't suit her at all, bringing up the fact that the other girls in class make fun of her clothes. Ninomiya pities her, but Kikuko claims she started the whole thing, claiming Maria tried to split up Kanemoto and Mori because she wanted to be the center of attention, but it ended in her being left out instead. Again, Ninomiya pities her, asking Kikuko if they were close. She admits they were once, but not since she'd badmouthed her with other girls, all because she didn't comply with Maria's plan. When Ninomiya cluelessly asks what plan, Kikuko, frustrated, tries making him understand again, but as she attempts to justify her feelings, saying Maria got what she deserved, she comes to realize no one thinks as badly of Maria as her. She's shocked she could be so cruel and cries, ashamed of herself. Just then, a center employee arrives with Ninomiya's model and he invites her to look at it. After seeing it, Kikuko is so moved, she runs straight to Maria's house to apologize and they make up, shedding tears together. On the morning of the school sports festival, Niku and Kikuko pack lunch, making rice balls together. Kikuko complains Niku's rice balls are too big, but Niku claims the more, the merrier. Niku gains a lot of weight as autumn approaches and begins getting late-night calls every Tuesday. Kikuko theorizes it's the okonomiyaki vendor based on how she was careful to whisper during calls. Niku picnicked with Sasen and the Iwashi staff on the sidelines, drinking and cheering loudly for Kikuko. During the festival, Kikuko keeps being distracted by a rogue camera flash, annoying her at every event. At the boys' cavalry battle, she finds herself rooting for Ninomiya. She wants him to win and pull a face so much, she involuntarily starts making one and her classmate calls her loopy when she sees it. She sits to have lunch and Sasen compliments her on her athleticism. As Niku unpacks the bentos, she grabs the rice balls Kikuko made, while Kikuko protests, claiming she's going to the restroom. Sasen wonders why she takes rice balls to the restroom but covers for her, distracting Kikuko with other dishes. The parents soon line up for the scavenger hunt race. While seated, Kikuko spots Ninomiya, who makes a face at her. She playfully makes one back and he shows off his gold medal, blinding her with the refraction of the light. They're interrupted as the event is about to start. The parents are lined up but Niku keeps starting too early, to her daughter's embarrassment. The gun finally sounds and Niku starts late, stumbling onto the field, grabbing her slip of paper, and panting as she gets to the MC, who announces the object she must find is a novel. An old man in the audience offers his book, which she takes gratefully, running with all her might, getting up each time she falls till she makes it to the finish line in last place. An oddly snowless winter arrives in November and as Kikuko checks an item out at the convenience store, the clerk asks how her mother's doing. Even as she exits the store, two more women remark they saw her mother lately. Niku had become a local celebrity after the sports festival, which she seemed to enjoy. At home, her daughter warns that people will say bad things about her too, but Niku doesn't mind, claiming they can call her the happy fat lady who works at the grill and Kikuko her pretty, intelligent daughter that looks nothing like her, but she's always Lady Niku and she loves it. Reading her expression, Kikuko feels her mom has good news and wonders if it's about the okonomiyaki vendor. Niku asks how her day was and Kikuko says it was ordinary, with her mother reiterating that ordinary is good. Tired of hearing her mother's catchphrase, Kikuko asks her mother what she considers ordinary, and Niku informs her a day where one eats, poops, studies, works, bathes, sleeps and farts is her definition of ordinary. Kikuko debates that if that were the case, then no one's life would be ordinary because nobody's life is that uneventful and asks her mom if she truly thinks their lives are ordinary. Niku shrugs, saying they did all those things today and Kikuko frowns, arguing that means the whole world leads ordinary lives. Again, her mother disagrees, reminding her that some people have no food to eat or no place to sleep. Before she can further argue, Niku offers her a baked sweet potato, which she sits outside on the dock eating, thinking that Niku doesn't understand her feelings. Kikuko thinks if Niku starts dating the okonomiyaki vendor, then they'd have to move towns again. A stray cat distracts her, asking if it's smoke-dried tuna she's eating. She offers the cat a piece of sweet potato just as Sasen pulls up behind her, asking how she and her mom are. Kikuko tries to get information from Sasen about her mother's boyfriend but Sasen doesn't know what she's talking about, telling her Niku doesn't have a man at the moment. Kikuko doesn't believe it, assuming she and the vendor must meet somewhere outside of Iwashi. Shrugging it off, she goes to leave after Sasen informs her the staff special tonight at Iwashi is misuji. That night, the staff gather at Iwashi to enjoy Sasen's misuji, a taste that makes them all exclaim. Kikuko finds it so delicious, she could eat an entire bowl in one go, while her mother is ecstatic, making misuji puns that no one finds funny. Kikuko can't be in such high spirits when she's anxious they'll have to move again soon. At closing time, Kikuko drags a drunk Niku home. On the way, Her daughter asks what she was like as a child and Niku tells her she was very frail, sleeping all the time. Niku's father had died and her mother had begun working, so she was raised by her grandmother, who also sadly passed away while she was in junior high. Her grandmother told Niku she'd stay by her side, even after death, and Niku claims that eases her loneliness, coupled with Kikuko's presence in her life. Kikuko tells her to look up at the sky, showing her the stars. They admire them together, in awe. The next day, Kikuko wakes in pain, wondering if she's gotten food poisoning from last night's masuji. Sasen has agreed to let them live there cheaply on the condition that no one gets diarrhea, so she vehemently denies the possibility, choosing to soldier through the pain. As they make breakfast, Niku remarks that her lips are blue, but Kikuko claims she's just chilly, assuring her mother she's okay. After breakfast, the pain worsens, but Niku beats her to the bathroom, using the last of the toilet paper again. As she comes out, Kikuko runs into the bathroom while her mother steps out to restock on toilet paper. As Niku leaves, Kikuko takes the chance to look for medicine but finds none. The pain becomes so intense, Kikuko passes out on the floor. A flashback is shown of a young girl, the spitting image of Kikuko, who has a similar habit of going to the river when she feels down. She leaves home at 16 with nothing but her looks, wandering, each time finding a new river and a new name, leaving everything behind her. When she'd almost forgotten her birth name, she took the name Mio. One night, as Mio sat in her dressing room, counting her tips, Niku, who went by the name Daria at the time, pops in, striking up a conversation with her. The girls quickly become friends, eventually moving in together, fending for each other, and sharing meals of Mio's spaghetti from a can. They come to regard each other as sisters. Once while Daria was budgeting, Mio tried to give her a 1,000 yen bill, but she'd refused, telling Mio to keep her money for herself and her daily budget. Mio had tried insisting, but Daria wouldn't budge, and in her frustration, Mio suddenly confessed to her sister that she was infertile, bursting into tears. Daria asked her if she truly wanted a child, and Mio admits she never thought she'd wanted one before, but knowing she couldn't have one now made her feel very lonely. Eventually, Mio pays off her debt, and one Christmas Eve, as they share her French toast in place of Christmas cake, she runs to the bathroom, suddenly feeling nauseous. Her period hadn't come for a while and she felt off, but that night confirmed she was pregnant. Daria got multiple jobs to help Mio out while she stayed at home, doing housework as her belly got bigger. On September 9th, Mio gave birth in their home, while Daria cheered her on. Upon finding out her baby was a girl, she asks Daria if she could name the baby after her. Back in the present day, Kikuko wakes in a hospital to Sasen asking if she's alright. He tells her she had appendicitis and had to have surgery. The doctors say she almost gave herself peritonitis, and Sasen asks why she toughed it out, not saying anything to anyone. Dodging his question, Kikuko asks for her mother, who Sasen tells her is handling her admission for the coming week of her recovery. Hearing she has to be admitted makes Kikuko apologize. Sasen interrogates her as to why she didn't notify an adult. Kikuko is too embarrassed to say, but Sasen guesses from her facial expression that it was because of his rule. She says sorry again, and when Sasen asks a final time, Kikuko breaks, saying she said nothing about her burden because she wasn't supposed to be born. Sasen both lectures and comforts her, telling her that she's alive and that as long as she is, she'll make mistakes. He assures her she's allowed to act like a child, but also that acting like a child is truthfully something adults made up, and the only thing people should act like is themselves. He lets her in on the fact, the same way kids aren't perfect, adults weren't either, so no matter how hard she tried, she would always struggle or make mistakes. The best thing she could do was prepare for it. Sasen encourages her to make mistakes, cause trouble for others, get more emotional scars, and go on living. He promises he won't be easy on her because they're family, which meant that she couldn't tiptoe around him either. Patting Kikuko on the head, he assures her everything would be okay and that she was meant to be born. Niku enters with an armful of bags, and Sasen excuses himself as she bows, thanking him. As soon as he's gone, she rushes to Kikuko's side, asking how she is, assuring her she's safe. Kikuko goes to apologize, but Niku cuts her off with her own tearful apology for not noticing she was unwell. Looking at the things her mother brought, she thinks they'll be moving again, and she suddenly confessed to Niku that she's known Niku wasn't her mother. She'd figured it out at 4 years old. Niku flinches, and Kikuko goes on to mention that she's seen the old photo of Niku and Mio, noticing the woman strongly resembles her, and she knows that strange lady is her mother. Niku flinches again, and the last thing Kikuko mentions are the phone calls, telling Niku not to hold back her romantic desires on her account. Niku had brought her up even though she wasn't her child, and Kikuko was grateful. Niku was nervous, till Kikuko mentioned the okonomiyaki vendor, and she was left confused. Kikuko still thinks the calls were from the vendor, forcing Niku to admit the truth, the late-night calls were from her birth mother. Kikuko is shocked and Niku hurriedly tries to explain. Her mother had wanted children, but she was young and afraid back then, though now she's gotten married to a man who loves her and has become pregnant again, which made her realize how precious children are and how much she regrets her mistake. Kikuko notes her phrasing and suggests her mother abandoned her. When she asks Niku about her father and she doesn't answer, she bitterly realizes Mio doesn't even know who her father is. Saying she can handle it with a heavy sigh, she asks Niku for the rest of the details. Niku tells her how she came home one day and found Kikuko alone with money, breast milk, and a note left by her mother. When Kikuko asks if her mother wanted to see her, Niku says no, she just wanted to see how she was doing and even came to her sports day. Remembering the odd camera flash, Niku realizes it was her and asks Niku about the rice balls she took to the restroom that day. Niku confirms they were for Mio, who traveled all the way from Kobe to see her and broke into tears when she ate her daughter's rice balls, saying how beautiful she's grown to become. Niku cries that she wasn't sure if Kikuko was happy or not but that she'd do whatever she could for her, with all her might even though she's a poor excuse for a mom, and if she ever wanted to meet or live with her real birth mother, she could. Kikuko admits she doesn't want to be like Niku, not just in terms of looks but her naive actions as well, though she admits that despite that, she loves Niku. Niku remembers when Kikuko was a toddler, a day after she'd come home from work and passed out on the kitchen table due to exhaustion. She was woken up by little Kikuko, singing and cheering her on to comfort her and proclaiming she loved her. The memory makes Niku burst into tears as Kikuko expresses how much she loves her adopted mother. During her recovery, the girls from the school visited Kikuko at the hospital, bringing flowers and DVDs. The hospital gave Niku special permission to stay with Kikuko, and on the last day of her admission, Ninomiya comes to visit her. They greet each other by making faces. Ninomiya inquires about the envelope on her bed and she tells him it's the hospital bill her mother had tried to pay as she arrived, instead of when she left, like she's supposed to. He chuckles, saying she has a great mom. Kikuko tells Ninomiya he's weird, asking if he usually hides his weirdness from others, and he smiles, saying he never has to worry about it with her because she's weird too. When she incredulously asks how, he says it's because she talks to herself so much, pointing out that whenever she sees a bird she yells, "Go beyond," or when she sees a lizard she says that she is late. She's always yelling stuff. Kikuko confesses, saying those things makes it fun, which makes Ninomiya think she's weirder than him. As he makes a face, then suddenly becomes a bit stoic. Kikuko asks if his model is complete and he tells her it won't ever be finished. His eyes widen as he looks out the window, telling her it's snowing. As they admire the snow together, she finds the light of it looks familiar, reminding her of the glimmer of hope she saw in the novelist's books and Ninomiya's model, which is revealed to be a model of a seaside town, oddly reminiscent of the one they lived in, filled aspects of the present day, past memories and future dreams. The lights seem to shower down on the small town. At New Year's, Kikuko and Niku visit the local shrine to pray. On their walk home, Niku asks Kikuko what she prayed for, but her daughter says it's bad luck to say. Ignoring that fact, Niku admits all she said to God was hello. They pause to look at the sea and Niku surprises Kikuko with a box of red and white New Year's sweets she got at the shrine when suddenly, Kikuko's stomach starts aching. They arrive home and Kikuko heads straight to the toilet while her mother unboxes the sweets outside, only to find that both the sweets are red, instead of red and white. Just then, Kikuko calls her name and the bathroom door flings open, revealing her flushed face. Immediately understanding, Niku puts down the box of all red sweets, takes a deep breath, and in her most motherly tone, congratulates her daughter on entering into womanhood.